Ακούγεται αυτό, λες. Περπατάει το σκυλί, ακούγεται. Τα νύχια του. Όχι. Hey everyone, my name is Manos Kalazimis and I'm the game designer of Hex Mythica. Today is our first video. We'll talk about our current biggest project, its visuals, game mechanics, code, and much more. We'll also talk about game development in general. So, let's go!
Who cares?
Game development is a very unique way of self-expression. You're practically simulating a world that has your own rules, which you need to define.
In order to make a great game, like all the amazing studios out there, games take time so the creators can ensure that their creation is unique, appealing, and memorable. The design comes first, laying out every element of the game, what it is about, what it tries to make the player feel or experience, what is unique about it, and more. Then questions arise. Can we make this with current technology? Will it run at 60 FPS? Does it sound fun? These questions can be tough, and the answers aren't always pleasing, but they can spark an iteration of the process, stepping back and reworking the plan. Then asking questions again. After the design is laid out, which can take months or years, we can proceed to coding and visuals.
Despite popular belief, graphics is one of the last tasks completed in most games. Take for example the recent GTA 6 leaks. From a developer's point of view, this could be in any state of development. Not in the very beginning, of course, but it could either be far from finished or pretty close. The absence of the assets doesn't contain enough information regarding its completion. Is it a test scene? What is the build? We don't know exactly what we're seeing.
In game engines, among other programs, some spaces called scenes exist. Most games contain multiple scenes that have been created for specific purposes, like a loading screen, a main menu, or character creation. Think of scenes as virtual space. Initially, they're empty until we populate them with game objects. Then, saving and reloading the scene will also load the game objects. Anything that is inside the scene is considered a game object, from characters to props, projectiles, and more. Scenes can load other scenes from interaction, and so on. This is just the tip of an iceberg we won't explore in this video. Back to the main point, test scenes usually exist while in development, a simplified environment for any testing purpose. Some of the scenes displayed here are clearly test scenes and will never be more visually appealing than that. This scene has walls of specific length, for example. It could be used to prototype some mechanic. If it works in the test scene, it should also work in other scenes. To no one's surprise, this leaked footage had its impact on Twitter. Average Guy stated that if you knew how game development goes, you'd know that visuals are one of the first things done. Developers then started posting videos and screenshots captioned as "graphics are the first thing finished on a video game," with placeholder assets being clearly displayed, while the games maintain their functionality, humoring this misconception about visuals in games. Scenes are being populated in time. The first appearances of objects can be rough or funny.
With that being said, let's take a look at Hex Mythica.
Hex Mythica is an in-development roguelike game with various MMO elements such as global trading, guilds, seasons, leaderboards, and more.
Despite the game being directly affiliated with NFT cryptocurrencies, we do not ever plan to change the free-to-play model, nor have any mechanics locked behind paywalls, as the game is competitive. Trades for useful items happen strictly between players, while premium currencies only unlock cosmetic utilities.
Right now, we still have a majority of placeholder assets that need to be replaced, like this guy. We don't know who he is, but it's definitely not our vision for a main character. His replacement is on the way. I'm sorry, convenient sized random demon from an asset store bundle, but that's life. Roommate, the creative studio behind those great concept arts, along with the creative director and the writer, have some pretty big plans for him. This is the prototype version of combat. While running the game, all the actions are logged and resolved in the background before being shown to the screen. We've implemented a computation system on a virtual hexagonal grid, which resolves combat with actions and targets, casters, etc. It's the brain that can theoretically run the game from a terminal. For this system, any ability, weapon, or spell can be created and inserted to the database with ease, another benefit of data-driven development. The tools are there for us to implement and test new ideas using data models. In a few words, data-driven development is an architecture that can extract behaviors from data. These behaviors need to be able to be expressed in data, of course, instead of separate lines of code. Let's go back in time. GTA 3, Liberty City. If we search deeper to a not-so-random example, we'll find where selected weapons are handled. Separate lines of code are used for each weapon depending on its type. For example, both M16 and AK-47 need to know their fire source, however, each case sets its own fire source in a similar way with different values. With a finite and small number of weapons, this approach doesn't pose a problem. If you noticed in the last section, I was able to make a new weapon, its behavior at least, not graphics, without typing any lines of code. Since this architecture has been used, assuming that we have the resources or a way for an endless supply of visual effects and 3D props, we can implement new weapons that mix and match already defined or new behaviors just through our tools. That's why a solid design is important. We need to know which corners should be cut and which not. GTA 3 developers knew how many weapons would be used and decided that a data-driven approach isn't worth the effort and time. Imagine trying to add more weapons in GTA 3, having to go to every line of code, find every if statement that handles weapons, add the case for your new weapon, and make sure it's not bugged. I would not recommend that. For Hex Mythica's items, data-driven is a blessing.
We've always been playing and creating games, from smaller ones to much bigger ones.
No! Wait there, please.
Having a team that you can communicate with and make new ideas work has always been a very valuable environment. Trying to understand how games work and why they work the way they do. Accepting the challenge to build on or improve those genre-defining systems is a very unique feeling.
Here we can see the building system of Hex Mythica. We try to opt for a player experience that is both easy to use and allows the player to be creative. Countless building systems have been created over the years, so deciding on having the features displayed here took more time than you'd expect. Players can build their home inside the anomaly, where the game is taking place. Every roguelike game has a main hub, so we felt the need for our home areas to not only be fully modular, but also be a gathering place for players and guilds. By every iteration, we can see one of the main areas of the game being brought to life. This all started by conversations with the writer, leading to gameplay adjustments to sketches later on and concept arts. The home area floor can be constructed with just a click. Walls, columns, and gaps are being recognized and placed automatically using our procedural generation algorithms. We wanted to make a simple to use system with minimal input, since placing walls or selecting options after clicking on something is a repetitive process that has been omitted. After deciding on a shape, players can populate their home with assets, ranging from major gameplay utilities such as the starting gate or the home building station to small decoration or details. Interacting with some assets affects gameplay, from opening a menu to starting the run.
Our designed features are steadily being integrated into the engine. We haven't talked about the combat system yet, as it would take up a whole video on its own. For now, we're glad we could shed some light, hopefully, to game development in general and to Hex Mythica as well. Until next time, thanks for your time. Peace.